Okay, Justin, thanks so much. Nice to meet you. Grab a seat, please. I just got done talking to Mark here, and he reviewed the first part of the interview with me, and I see just sort of reviewing with him. I know he feels real strongly about sort of forwarding you in the process as a candidate with our firm. Um, Looking through, so it looks like you work at LAUSD here. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How long you been there?
About 10 years.
Okay, good. What do you like about it?
I really like my students, knowing I can maybe add some value to their lives. I teach ESL.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's really rewarding because you can really see a difference that you make in their lives, their ability to communicate, maybe get a better job.
Fantastic, fantastic. And are you married, kids?
Huh? Yeah, I'm married and have a daughter, 9.
No way. How long you been married?
We've been married about 7 years.
7 years. What's your wife's name?
Sandra.
And what does she do?
She is an actress.
Okay. No way.
Yeah.
She done anything that I might have heard of?
She used to be on a soap opera, One Life to Live.
My wife used to watch that. No way. One Life to
Really?
Live. Yeah. Oh my God. What was her character? My wife will freak out.
Rachel
Rachel.
was the character. Yeah.
I can't wait to tell her. That's such a kick. When I first started dating my wife, her and her girlfriend, she lived in a house with like 3 other girls. And every day they would tape theirs, and I think it was One Life to Live, and I think it was All My Kids was their other one that they were really into.
Yeah, people are pretty dedicated when it comes to that.
They really, matter of fact, every year, about probably 4 out of the past 6 or 7 years, her and her girlfriends, just for like sort of a Mom's Gone Wild weekend,
Oh no, really?
has gone
Down
to
in Florida?
no, like in somewhere in the valley, like I think it's General Hospital,
Ah, right.
has like a reunion dinner every year that people fly in from around the country to go
Yeah.
to, and they go there and just have some cocktails and have fun.
Right.
It's all grins and giggles for them.
Yeah.
People are fanatical about that
They
stuff.
certainly are.
That's crazy. Did curious? Did you grow up in the area?
No, I grew up in the Midwest, outside of Cleveland.
No way. I grew up in the Midwest too.
Yeah.
How old were you when you moved here?
I was, well, let me see, it's easy to remember. I've been here since 95.
Right.
Yeah. So I was 18.
Almost. Me too. Brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother, 4 years older than I am.
Yep.
He lives, he was in Vegas, but he moved back to the Midwest.
He did.
Yeah.
And what about your wife, Sandra?
She's originally from Canada, from Toronto.
No way.
Yeah, so all her family's back there.
All their mom and dad, brothers,
Mom,
sisters,
dad,
all that sort of
2
stuff.
sisters, dogs, cats, all those.
You got it. So you two are starting your life out here together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you this, Justin. When so you've been teaching for how many years now?
About 10.
10 years. You guys have been married 7.
Mm-hmm.
You got a daughter. Was it Stormy? Did you say? Okay.
Yeah.
When you and Sandra get some quiet time, when Stormy's like done with her homework, and you guys get a little bit of quiet time to just sort of talk as couples do at the end of the night or over the course of a weekend before you just sort of crash because you're exhausted, right? What are some of the things that you and Sandra talk about that are really important to you guys? Things that are important to you and your family, or you two as a couple over the next year or 3 years or 5 years?
That's a good question. I think, a lot of what we do centers on Stormy.
Okay.
And wanting to make sure that she gets the care and the guidance that she needs.
Right.
That, we put her in a position to be as successful as possible. One of the big things for us is, we rent, we'd like to own.
Okay. Have you owned before?
No.
Okay, that'd be exciting. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think, mostly those things, ultimately, just as parents, you get so caught up in your children.
You do.
That your life kind of becomes about, making sure that you do the right things for them.
Right. So, providing the best that you can for Stormy, I guess, academically and otherwise, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And buying a house. What part of town do you live in now?
We're right outside of Studio City.
Okay. Is that the area that you'd like to buy in?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, we're not locked into any specific place. I think if we find the right house that we really liked,
Right.
if I had to travel a little bit more, that'd be fine.
Okay. Have you guys talked about areas that you like in general, or?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's an area called Valley Village that's close to Studio City. We really like that area. You know, for us, it's a question of finding, you know, the right value.
Sure.
Because we obviously have a budget.
Sure. What are some other things in addition to the house and taking care of Stormy that are important to the two of you guys?
Oh gosh, let's see. It'd be nice to be able to retire someday.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that'd be great. And also, I think, you know, to have the flexibility to, you know, for Stormy and Sandra to get back to Canada, you know, regularly, so that
Sure.
they can, you know, she can maintain a relationship with her family there.
How often does Sandra get a chance to go back now?
A few years ago, she would get back 2 to 3 times a year.
Right.
Recently, it's, you know, you may know this, that teachers got cut back.
Right.
So we have taken more furlough days, and you know, so I make less money than I used to. So Sandra hasn't been able to go back for a couple of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So in a perfect world, 2-3 times a year, maybe?
Yeah.
4?
At least you know, for Christmas and for summer.
Right.
You know, minimum.
Is that something you'd be interested in doing with the girls, or just letting them go?
Absolutely. No, I mean, for me, like we were doing 3 times a year, where the springtime would just be their trip.
Right.
You know, and I can have, you know, dad alone time.
Right. That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it is. You know, until you realize that you are old and boring, and you're like, oh, I miss my family.
Right, right.
It's kind of funny, but definitely winter and summer. You know, to go as a family together is important to me.
Is that the extent of traveling that's important to you guys?
You know, that's really interesting. I think if we could travel more, I think we would. But I think at a certain time, you know, to a certain extent, your budget's your budget over a long period of time, and you realize what's, you know, you kind of fall into that feeling of like, this is just what's possible for us.
Right.
You know, and anything more isn't worth talking about because it's probably not going to happen.
So you guys don't talk about it a lot, but in the past, you guys have talked about it or enjoyed
We did.
traveling?
Just the nature of our relationship, and we were long distance, so
Uh-huh.
we traveled a lot together. You know, we were bi-coastal, so you know, she'd either come out here or I'd go out there.
Okay.
You know, so I guess just because we started that way, being in one place at one time is kind of nice.
Right.
You know, but yeah, absolutely. If we had the ability to travel more, we definitely will.
Would it be more domestically, you think, or internationally?
Well, you know, one thing that Stormy and I have talked about for a long time is to go to Egypt together as a
Wow.
family. You know, that's kind of a big deal for
Why
me.
Egypt?
Because in college I studied archaeology. You know, and
Okay.
I'd always envisioned myself being an archaeologist. You know, and things went the way they did, but you know, for me, Stormy's
You
developed-
look a little bit like Indiana Jones. I can sort of see
So I've
that
had
deal.
plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a stunt double for Harrison Ford.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
She's kind of inherited that love of Egypt from me because, you know, I got her the books and we talked about
Really?
it and talked about my experiences. So yeah, so it's you know, that definitely would be something that I would love for us to go do.
Right. So traveling, getting your own place. Certainly, Sandra and Stormy getting back to Toronto as well as you on a more
Yeah.
regular basis. Anything else that's you guys talk about or maybe used to talk about but you haven't talked about recently that you know just is important to you and important to the family looking out over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that is really important is to have, you know, as an actor, your income is kind of up and down.
Right.
And so for me, one of the big things is to know that I'm making enough and have enough coming in that, you know, Sandra doesn't have any pressure to work, and you know, if she goes a month between gigs or 2 months, that's not a big deal.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. And if she decided that she just wanted to stay home
Right.
with Stormy and be a full-time mom, that would be absolutely fine, and we'd have the ability to do it. You know, that's not
Okay.
something that we haven't had that dedicated conversation, but for me, that's a big deal. For me, that's really important. And I know the bits and pieces that we've talked about, I know Sandra would really appreciate that as well.
So this whole LAUSD thing with the furlough days and being cut back, do you think that's going to change anytime soon and your income will get back to where it was?
I think it has the ability to head back that way, but the truth is this, in the division I work, it's a low priority division, so I'm not confident that it will go back anytime soon.
If it does go back, then are you going to be able to buy a house and travel to Toronto and maybe internationally to Egypt and provide for Stormy the way you want to and save for retirement? I believe you mentioned that as
Yeah.
well.
Honestly, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, all of those things, no. Maybe a few of them, yeah.
How important is it to you at this stage of your career to be able to do those things for your family?
Well, it's really important because if it doesn't happen now, I'm not sure if it'll ever happen.
Scale of 1 to 10 it for me, 10 being the highest. How important is it to you?
Especially when it comes to Stormy, it's a 10.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the house?
I'd say that's a 7.
What about Sandra being able to go back to Toronto a couple times a year?
9.
9.
Yeah.
What about being able to retire?
9.
9.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you this: what questions do you have for me about our company or the training programs, whatever the case might be?
Well, yeah, I'm just I'm just trying to put the whole picture together.
Uh-huh.
You know, like how I'd fit into it, how I'd get trained. You know, how the whole. I'm kind of hemming and hawing because there's so many parts of it. Like I don't know how I get trained. I don't have a background in finance per se.
Right.
I mean, I know I have skill sets to bring to it, but I'm not quite sure. You know, how I enter the company. You know, like how that would work for me.
Okay. And I've actually, one of the things I want to talk about if we get to this sort of stage of the interviewing process is I've got a schedule, if you will, or a plan, a 90-day plan for individuals when they just get started with us that I've been here 15 years, and what we've tried to do here is map out everything that would be expected of you in the first 90 days from a training perspective, developing the skills, getting the licenses, so forth, and so on to get a career started with our firm. So I think right now what's most important is trying to figure out if this is a good fit for you and potentially if you're a good fit for us. In addition to sort of how we get started, is there anything else that is sort of nagging at you, a question that's important for you? If not, we can certainly get into that, but if there's other things, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I can't think of that. That was the primary thing for me.
Just how to get started?
Yeah, how the process works, how I get started.
Okay.
That's I mean, you know, like they mentioned in the overview the compensation.
Right.
You know, so I get that a bit, but I think I'll need more information about that.
Okay.
You know, but
anything specific about the compensation that you needed clarification on?
like so, is it this salary as well, or it's just based on commission?
No salary, much like it was covered in the corporate overview. If I mean, for an individual that's looking sort of for a job or is looking for a salary or something like that, this is not a good place to find a job. The right candidate for us, really, Justin, is looking for a long-term career in financial services. And quite frankly, most of our individuals, we've had quite a bit of success with teachers, most of our individuals start part-time so that they've still got the full-time income, like you would still keep your job at LAUSD and you sort of know what that's bringing you in. But over the course of this 90 days, you get a chance to sort of get the licenses that you would need and develop the skills. And without any quotas or anything of that nature or any kind of restrictions in that way, we could really begin to build a book of business and help you build a book of business so that you could transition, if you wanted to, from a part-time position with us to a full-time position, sort of on your own timeline.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So you never have, here's what we don't want, Justin. We don't want you to have all kinds of financial pressure to make the rent or car payments or whatever the case might be, and be sitting in front of a client feeling this financial pressure that they need to buy something so you could do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What we'd like you to do is keep your full-time job, develop the skills here, develop a book of business, develop a clientele, and over the course of time, as your income grows and your skill set grows, then it can be a nice natural transition. Okay. Let me ask you this. Let's say we don't get started today. Let's decide not to move forward in a position here with our firm. For whatever reason we decide or you decide.
Yeah.
These things that are important to you, the retirement and doing these things for Stormy and Sandra getting a chance to go back to Toronto a couple, 2-3 times a year, and you guys finding a place there in Valley Village or in the surrounding area that's can be a permanent home for you and Sandra and Stormy. I mean, is there a realistic way you see that happening in the near term if we don't get started here? Is that going to happen at LAUSD? I mean, you've been there 10 years. You probably got a pretty good handle on whether or not that's possible.
Yeah, no, just what I told you. I think, bits and pieces might be possible, but not everything that I want.
Okay. So, if there was a way that we could make those things happen here, starting part-time and transitioning into a full-time career, if there's a plan we could put together that would give you the certainty that you needed to be able to create that kind of a career and create that kind of a lifestyle for your family, how important would it be for you to achieve that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Right, and we're saying it's somebody that I felt would achieve that.
Yeah.
Those goals. I'd be a 10.
Here, matter of fact, here's what I can tell you. If for some reason, Justin, 90 days out or 6 months out or a year out or 2 years out, if for some reason at some point in a career here with us, you're not achieving those goals the way we designed them to be, the goals that are important to you, here's what I can promise you. You're not going to walk through that door and sit down with me and say that the reason you're not achieving your goals is because I'm not doing my part. I've been here almost 15 years, and what I can tell you is I know what I need to do to provide the direction and the support and the resources that you need to help you achieve those things. I've done it with a whole bunch of other guys. Right? We've got agents around the country that I've personally trained and developed and worked with and mentored that have had success, quite frankly, beyond what we're discussing right now. So there's no question that we can do those things here. But for us to do those things, you're going to have to do your share of the work. As long as you're willing to do your share of the work to provide those things for Sandra and Stormy, I know that we can make those things happen here for you. Is that fair?
Sounds fair.
You sort of want to, would you like to see what your share of the work means?
Yeah, I think that would be important for me to take a look at that.
Okay, great. Let's do this. I've got this 90-day plan here that we've talked about. What I want to do is I want to go over the whole 90-day plan with you. Having said that, here's what that means. I'm about to go through 3 months of work with you in about 10 minutes. So I don't care what the job was. If it, 3 months of work in 10 minutes is going to seem like overwhelming. The important thing to keep in consideration, though, is what I want to do is give you a big picture, sort of the 20,000-foot view level. Why? Because I'm a big believer that if we're going to be successful together in business, Justin, that it's going to be predicated on us building a strong business relationship together. And my belief is this, Justin, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship or a family relationship, at the core of every strong and successful relationship, the most important element is trust. And I think for us to build trust in the relationship, in any kind of relationship, trust is about setting expectations. I think many times people have great expectations and great intentions, but when they don't set the expectations, when you're not clear on what you expect out of each other, I'm sort of assuming you're going to do this, you're assuming I'm going to do that. Next thing you know, we get a couple months down the road and all of a sudden it's not that either one of us intended bad things, we're just way off the track, right? So for me, it's about setting expectations. I'm going to spend a couple minutes go through these 90 days, and then once we're done with that, here's sort of the big picture. All we need to really focus on is what do you need to do today to get started? And once we get through today, which will be like another 10 or 15 minutes, pretty easy to get through today, then we'll take a look at what you'll need to achieve in the first week. Fair enough?
Yeah. Fair.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go through this. If you have any questions, please let me know as you go through it, okay? So day one, let's get started right here on day one. Day one is we're going to complete an associate membership agreement and submit it with a $100 processing fee, okay? Here's what I want you to understand. Number one is that $100 processing fee doesn't go to me. It doesn't go into Ryan Kennedy, the guy that invited you here today. It's going to go to our home office. It's a processing fee to process your application to be an independent contractor with our company, not an employee, okay? In addition to that, we're going to do a background check. If for some reason the company isn't willing to move forward with your application, you'll get your $100 back. You haven't robbed any liquor stores in the past 10 years, have you?
No, it's been 12 years.
12 years, okay, that's good to know. My expectation is that you would pass. What the company wants to know is that you're going to be able to get licensed with the state authorities and the federal authorities, and the companies in business with us are going to let you represent them, and that our company is going to feel comfortable letting you represent us. Obviously, the fact that Ryan referred you means a lot to me, but the company wants to look for something more substantive. Now, down here farther, I want to let you know we've got a reimbursement program. And so the $100 processing fee, and there'll be some licensing fees that we'll go through here as well. It's our intention to reimburse you for all of those fees. But here's what I know. If I started paying processing fees and licensing fees right now for you, hoping that you would get your state license. I don't even know if you're going to open a book and study, right?
Right.
So what we want to do is, if you've got a little skin in the game, what we found is you're going to actually open the books, you're going to study, pass the test, and when you pass the test, then we have a reimbursement program. So our goal is, by the time you get licensed, Justin, is that you're pretty much even with us. In other words, you've gotten licenses, you've gotten some training. At that point, you're starting fresh with us. Okay. So let me walk through this. Any challenges with that, by the way?
I'm just surprised. I didn't know that there would be a fee.
Yeah, okay. I apologize for that, but you're being hired as an independent contractor, not as an employee. So that's fairly typical for most independent contractors, that there's some sort of business licenses or certifications of things of that nature. Okay. So today, day one, we'd complete an associate membership agreement and submit it with the processing fee. In addition, we're going to look for 10 personal references. These references are, I quite frankly don't care if you've ever worked with them before. Now, I want to talk to people that really know you. People like Ryan, that oftentimes if we call a business reference, here's what they're going to tell us. Here's the dates he worked here, and here's what was his title. I want to talk to people that really know you, that can vouch for you, that give me a sense about who it is that we're hiring and how, our clients are going to respond. Many people want to pre-contact the references. Why? Here, what I don't want to be doing, Justin, is still trying to get a hold of your references 2 weeks from today.
Right.
So if you could text them today or call them, just say, hey, somebody from the company is going to be calling. I just submitted an application with them. Do me a favor. If you miss the call, call them back right away. It's important to me. Okay?
Right. How many are there?
10 personal references.
Oh,
They can be,
that's
they can be family, friends.
Yeah.
They can be coworkers. A lot of times supervisors, though, are a little bit tougher for us to get.
Why so many?
Just gives us an opportunity to get a hold of more people and get a better understanding of who you are, just to validate the way we feel about you today. Last two things, so that takes 10 or 15 minutes. Last couple of things is we want to schedule 2 appointments with you. Just schedule the appointments today. One is a personal financial strategy and benefits appointment with your spouse. That is for you to sit down, the two of you, you and your spouse, Sandra, with one of our licensed trained professionals, for you just to get a chance to see what it is that we're going to be training you to do. At the same time, we're going to show that I want you to look at this through a couple sets of eyes. One is, you may not know everything that our licensed trained individual is taking you through, but is it something that you could learn? Is it something that you could see yourself doing? And lastly, is it something that you could feel good about doing, something that you could stand behind, right? Lastly, if there's any recommendations that we can make that might be able to help your and Sandra's financial situation, might be able to help you get into that house sooner, or help you do some things for Stormy that are important, we'll make those recommendations, okay? But the important thing is for you to get a real firsthand experience of what we're going to be teaching you how to do, okay? And then the last appointment we want to schedule is schedule a goals and no family left behind marketing plan. This is where we're going to set some goals with you and then put together a marketing plan to help you achieve those, okay? That's all we need to do. That'll take about 10 or 15 minutes today, okay?
Okay.
Week 1, what do we want to accomplish week 1? We want to enroll you in the 52-hour online licensing course. The state is going to require you, Justin, to complete a pre-licensing course before they'll let you sit for the test. They won't let us give you that pre-licensing course. They require an outside vendor to do so. Now, many of these companies charge $140, $150, $160 for you to take one of these courses. Because of the number of people that we're helping to get licensed, we've got a special rate that we've agreed to with them of just $39, and so that you would pay that fee directly to them. You're going to have access to an online training course, okay? We want you to create a schedule and begin studying that course. Now, the schedule is set up, if you schedule about an hour and a half a day, in about 10 days you're done scheduling, and so you could take your test in as short as just 2 weeks. Our average guys are preparing for their test in about 2 weeks. Some of our hard chargers really get off to a fast start and are done with all the pre-licensing requirements in 3, 4, or 5 days. And some guys that are just super busy or a little bit run behind on things, they may take as long as 3 weeks or a month even to get through all their licensing stuff, okay? But it's important to get through it as quickly as possible, okay? We want you to actually start studying this week. We want to actually complete the 2 appointments we set up here earlier. We want to actually sit down with you and your spouse and go through that appointment that we're going to schedule today. And we want to go through that second appointment where you sit down and do your goals and your marketing plan, okay? We want to schedule a couple of field training appointments out in the field with your field trainer. We believe an hour in the field is sort of worth 10 hours in the classroom here. So we're going to get those scheduled with you. We'd like to confirm a couple of guests down to our next corporate overview. That might be Sandra. It might be another buddy of yours from work like Ryan. Just somebody to take a look at the company and learn more about what you're going to be doing here with us. Create some exposure, maybe drive some referrals down the road. Okay. And then additionally, is we've got a couple of training classes this Tuesday and again on Saturday morning. And then we've got some MP3 audio files, training files for you to listen to that you can download either to your phone, your iPod Touch, whatever it is here. And those will be available to you to download. So we just believe between the classroom training, the online licensing, as well as some of the audio files and video files that are available to you, it creates a real experiential learning process for you that it's sort of available to you in a lot of different ways. Okay. The end of week 2, what do we want to do? Schedule a couple of more appointments in the field. We want to purchase a ticket for the next regional training event. Ours happens to be 2 weeks, a week from this Saturday on the 12th. It's going to be an all-day training event close to you, actually. It's going to be in Pasadena at the Convention Center. It's all day. I believe it's $30 for that day, and that'll cover all days worth of training. I think there's a good chance that you'll get an overview on 3 months worth of training just in that one full Saturday day there. We want you to purchase our company training manual. We call it the Business Format System, or BFS, and that's $15. And then by the end of the second week, you should have already scheduled a test date with the state. And certainly your field trainer, Ryan, can help you to do that as well. Okay, the sooner we schedule that, the sooner we can start paying you. So that's a good thing. We don't want to put off that date too long, do we? That's sort of the reason we're here, isn't it? Yeah. Lastly, I've got a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. And what that does is we've taken a look at the 4 or 5 or 6 core competencies, core skill sets that you have. We just believe if you watch them on video, and then you see them in the field in real life experiences, and then when you practice them in the classroom, adults are experiential learners, that you're going to learn more by doing. But sort of like in the NFL, they draw it up on a chalkboard, right? And then they sort of practice it on the practice fields, and then come game time they play. The combination of being able to watch it on YouTube, watch these videos from some of our best trainers around the country, and then being able to sort of practice it again in the classroom and in your local office, and then going out in the field and on-the-job training, that you're going to learn these things faster. Because like you said sort of a few minutes ago, you don't have any experience doing this, and so we want to help you to develop the skills as quickly as possible. Okay. And then lastly, we got a couple more MP3 files for you to download at the end of the second week. Now, here's month 1, Justin. In month 1, there's some big important goals for us to hit by the end of month 1, okay? So by the end of month 1, we want you to have got your state license. And once you pass the test, now the cool thing in California, it only requires a 60% to pass. Once you pass that, the state's going to charge you an application fee of about $128, okay? Then if you go downtown to their test site, it's $37. If you test out here locally in one of the more convenient sites, it's $67. If you get your fingerprints done at their site, it's $60. If you do it at the local site, it's $70. Now here's one thing I want you to know, Justin, is these are all just sort of state fees that the state is going to charge. Once I'm elected governor of the state, I'm going to like pretty much get rid of all these or make them really, really small. So if you would please help me with this in the next gubernatorial election, if you just write me in, it'd be a big help, okay? But while we're still paying these ticky-tack fees, here's what we have, and I mentioned it earlier. We've got a licensing reimbursement program. So once you get licensed, as long as you meet the qualifications of the licensing reimbursement program, we're going to reimburse you $300. And so that's designed, Justin, to sort of take care of all these ticky-tacky fees along the way. And like I said earlier, by the time you get licensed, our goal is for you to sort of be clean. In this sort of wash your hands, didn't cost you anything, you're licensed, and you've already begun to develop some of the skills necessary to be successful, which is pretty exciting. Imagine this. Imagine if you're halfway through the first semester of college, and by the time you're halfway through the first semester, all of your tuition for that year and all your books have already been reimbursed to you. And you haven't even gotten a degree yet. You'd feel pretty good about going to school, wouldn't you? Yeah. Okay. That's what we're trying to achieve for you. So after that, here's a couple of other big goals for us in month 1. Number 1 is we have errors and omissions insurance. What does that mean? Let's say you're accidentally sitting down with a client and for some reason you make the wrong recommendation or they misunderstand you. We don't want them to sue you, right?
Right, neither do I.
Yeah, we don't want them to sue the company, right?
Right.
And most importantly, we don't want them to sue me, okay? So we've got this big group policy. It's called errors and omissions. So if you make an error, what we want to make sure is that the client is taken care of and that none of us are involved in it in a negative way. It's very inexpensive, but it just helps us to make sure. Now, the neat thing is in 15 years of being in business and having lots of licensed agents in many different states, I'm not aware of one claim that any one of our agents has ever had to make on E&O. So it's good to have it just in case we need it. But from my perspective is when we hire good people like you and we do a good job with the background check and call their references, right? And then we train them the right way, that's the best protection. That's the best insurance that we can have in place by hiring good people and training them the right way. You'd agree, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how are we going to go about doing the training? By the end of the first month, we want you to have at least 10 field training appointments done. Here's the way we're going to do those, Justin. The first 3, 4, 5 appointments, you're going to watch one of my licensed trained professionals like Ryan Kennedy, okay? And you're going to watch him and take notes. You don't have to take notes on every word that he says, but there's like 5 or 6 big things he's going to do in an appointment and a presentation that are important for you to pay attention to that I want you to take notes on. Somewhere around the 4th or 5th, certainly not later than the 6th appointment, you're going to start doing the presentations and he's going to start taking notes on you. Okay? Like I said before, we believe adults are experiential learners. Now, here's the challenge with that. Many people like yourself that have high standards and you're used to sort of having a confidence about yourself when you do things feel a little bit like, oh, it's a little bit too soon. I may not be as good as I want to be yet. And so there's 3 things I want to let you know that are important. First and foremost, we'll never let you do anything that would embarrass you in front of a client. So let's say you're doing the presentation, you do step 1 great and step 2, and step 3 the wheels start falling off the wagon a little bit. Ryan will gently walk in, take over the presentation, do step 3, gently glide it back to you, then you can resume on step 4. I promise you the client's never going to know the difference. They're just going to think it's a normal part of the way we do things. It's not a big deal. Number 2 is a lot of times guys are afraid, well, what if I say something and really screw them up financially, right? We'll never let you say something that would mislead the client or hurt them financially. So you don't have to be worried about, I don't know it well enough. That's not going to happen. We've got a fiduciary responsibility. We can't let it happen, okay? The third thing is what I've trained my trainers to do is to take a ton of notes while you're speaking. If I don't let you know this up front, here's what happens. Every time they start writing down, what most guys do is go, oh no, what am I doing wrong? And then they start thinking in their head about what they're doing wrong, and then they completely lose their place. What my trainers are taught to do, Justin, is I want them to catch you doing 18 or 20 or 22 things right. Because if you're like most people, if we just walk out there and go, boy, Justin, you did these 2 or 3 things right. Most of us have high standards, are used to doing things at a high level, and after our first couple of appointments, you're naturally not going to feel like you did as well as you really did. So if I go, oh, you did 2 or 3 things right, you're going to be like, no, it wasn't that good, and I didn't feel that good, and I know I screwed up. I know he's just trying to be positive. But if we can point out literally 20 different things that you did right, no matter how small they're. Justin, I love when we walked in the door, how you greeted the husband and greeted the wife. Very professional the way you did that. I think you built rapport with them great. I love when we sat down at their kitchen table before we even went into the presentation. You sort of got to know them a little bit, asked them some questions. That was terrific. You know, when you got started on the first page, the way you read that and then made eye contact and asked questions, I like that. If my trainer can point out 18 or 20 or 22 different things that you've done right, it's sort of hard for you to be dismissive and go, no, right? What begins to happen is you begin to go, maybe I